Welcome to lecture 2 of the chapter Atoms. In the previous lecture, we had discussed the Thomson's atom model, Giger-Masten experiment or alpha scattering experiment, where we discussed the construction and the experimental observations. Then Rutherford's nuclear atom model on the basis of conclusions based on alpha scattering experiment. We also discussed the limitations of Rutherford's model, where it could not explain the emission of line spectrum by an atom and the stability of the atom. As was told in the last class, after the failure of Rutherford's nuclear atom model, the next improved model was proposed by Niels Bohr. In this lecture, we will discuss the Bohr's atomic model, which consists of introduction, basic postulates, and we will also discuss where the Bohr's model could not reach or what it could not explain, that is, limitations of the Bohr's model. Niels Bohr in 1913 gave the atomic theory to explain the line spectrum or the spectrum of hydrogen and hydrogen-like atoms. His theory was the combination of the ideas or the weaves from Planck's quantum theory, Einstein's photon theory, as well as the previous model of atom, that is Rutherford's nuclear atom model. By taking all these three, he proposed a better atomic model. So what his model consisted of? He said that as Rutherford told, there exists a nucleus where the whole mass of an atom is concentrated and which is positive in nature, which consists of the total positive charge of an atom. Then there exist electrons which revolve around the nucleus in circular orbits. And these circular orbits have certain energy. So to understand the Bohr's atomic model better, let's go with the Bohr's postulates. The first postulate says that an electron moves in the circular orbits around the nucleus under the influence of Coulomb's force of attraction between the electron and the positively charged nucleus. So the nucleus being the positively charged entity and electron being the negatively charged particle, the electron revolve around the nucleus. And what makes an electron to stay in the circular orbit? It is the Coulomb's force of attraction between the electron and the nucleus. When the electron is in one of its stationary orbit, it does not radiate energy, hence the atom is stable. These orbits in which an electron does not emit any radiations are called non-radiating stationary orbits. Then we have seen this kind of model in chemistry, where we say the first orbit to be K shell, L shell, second one, third as M, fourth as N, and so on. The second postulate says that the electron rotates about the nucleus in certain stationary circular orbits for which the angular momentum of the electron is the integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, where h is the Planck's constant. Try to understand. The stationary orbit cannot be random around the nucleus. The stationary orbits should be such that when an electron revolves in those stationary orbits around the nucleus, the angular momentum of the electron should be equal to the integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. So thus, the angular momentum L is equal to m into v into r, which is equal to nh upon 2 pi, where m is the mass of the electron, v is the velocity of the electron, r is the radius of the orbit. And what that is equal to? It is equal to n into h divided by 2 pi. Now what's n is? N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, which is the principal quantum number of that respective orbit. If it is first orbit, then the value of n is 1. For second, the value of n is 2. For third, the value of n is 3 and so on. This postulate is also called Bohr's quantum condition. Okay, it gives an idea of quantization, saying that electron cannot have random circular orbit but only certain orbits of certain angular momentum. Let's move on to the third postulate. Third postulate says that the atom radiates energy when the electron jumps from higher stationary orbit to lower stationary orbit. The frequency of the radiation can be obtained by an equation. H into nu is equal to EI minus EF, initial energy of the initial orbit to the energy of the final orbit. So we have here, we have a nucleus, we have orbits named as N1, N2 and N3. Initially, the electron is in the third orbit and it makes a transition from third orbit to second orbit. When it does that, it emits a radiation of energy h into nu, where h is Planck's constant. So therefore, the frequency of the radiation emitted depends on the energy difference between the higher orbit or initial higher orbit and the final lower orbit. This is the Bohr's third postulate. This postulate is also called Bohr's frequency condition. This postulate is also called Bohr's frequency condition. Now, even though the Bohr's model could explain many things, it also has certain limitations. Let's discuss what they are. It could explain the spectra of hydrogen and hydrogen-like atoms, but it failed to explain the same for all other atoms that exist in nature. It could not explain the Zeeman and Stark effect, the effect which is produced when the atom is placed in external electric field or magnetic field. It could not explain the fine structure of hydrogen spectrum. Now, what do we mean by that? It could only explain the simple line spectrum. It could not explain some other structures which were formed in the spectra. It used two theories of physics, classical as well as quantum, whereas in general they are contradictory to each other. Classical physics or classical theories will give the results to be exact, whereas quantum gives the results in the form of statistics. It only could predict. So Bohr's atomic model used both exact as well as predictive. You cannot tell this will happen and this may happen together, but Bohr did it. It failed in explaining the bonding of atoms to form the molecules. And Bohr's atomic model could not support the wave nature of electron. It considered electron to be a particle type. With this, we conclude the discussion. Thank you.